Yeah, hey, good morning, Gerard.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we're going to probably scare our audience to death today, cybersecurity,
Hold on,
never a good
I don't think
topic.
we're, yeah, never a good topic, not at all, or always a good topic.
Yep. There's always new stuff to learn about cybersecurity. I mean, it's sort of like a arms race, right? The good side is always battling the bad side, and it's just like a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Well, every day you hear about new threats and new attacks and stuff like that. People are always wondering, gosh, how do I protect my infrastructure? How do I protect my assets? And so I know you're going to cover some stories here in a minute, but before you do, why don't you tell them a little bit about the live stream series, what we're doing today, what we're doing. I think next month we're focusing on AI, but why don't you tell them a little bit about the series, and then maybe you can cover the some of the stuff in the news, and we'll get into our topics.
Yeah, happy to. Well, the emerging GovTech live stream series, which in fact we're an hour early today. We normally do it at noon, but today we're at 11 Eastern time. And we're looking at all the technologies that are changing not just the lives in government, but everyone's lives. We have to deal with things like artificial intelligence and robotic engineering and the new capabilities in across the internet. Things like deep fakes, where you can't even tell if it's real. I know my daughter does a lot of work on TikTok, and I tell you, it's amazing what comes over these apps, but you can't trust it all.
Yeah.
So here we're trying to give you some insight into how the technology is helping us, but also the things we have to be aware of as we do our business, especially in government. And today we're going to be talking about access management and data sharing, because as they say, data is the new oil, and we can't do anything without data.
Yeah. And incidentally, for those of you who don't know Kevin has a lot of incredible experiences and capabilities, but one of them is quantum computing. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we're going to bring on some guests. We'll tell you about them. They're absolutely phenomenal. But in addition to that, Kevin is an expert in this subject as well. So the dialogue we're going to have today is going to be fascinating, and you guys are going to learn a lot. Through this series, we've covered a number of other topics, right? We're going to cover land titling, artificial intelligence,
The tokenization.
tokenization. Kevin's got a lot of expertise and experience in tokenization projects. So check into this series throughout the year. I think you'll learn a lot, and they're also on the YouTube channel. So they're on the GBA Global YouTube channel. Kevin, are they also on your YouTube channel as well?
Yes, we have a few of them on Digital Transformers, my regular show. So please join us there as well. And I'm also the operations executive for the National DigiFoundry, where we are exploring innovation across the digital asset universe. We were originally initiated by a grant from the National Science Foundation, and we have partnered with the Government Blockchain Association to really, bring value to global governments when it comes to leveraging digital assets. So I'm so honored to be here with Gerard and supporting him and the mission of the Government Blockchain Association.
Yeah, so super excited about some of the things that they have coming down the road. I don't know what I can talk about. Kevin, I'll let you share your projects maybe throughout the show, because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on anything that they share. But they're involved in some really cutting edge stuff that is super exciting. But listen, there's a bunch of stuff happening in the news, Kevin. So why don't you share with us what's going on in the news, and then I'll introduce our speakers and set the table for our talk today.
Yeah, be happy to. Well, one first thing I want to talk about is how the, I guess, malevolent actors across the internet are really changing the game when it comes to trying to get your money. This first article, titled 2.1 billion in crypto stolen in 2025, as hackers are actually shifting their focus from code to users. Early in the life of digital assets and cryptocurrency, the hackers were really exploiting smart contract vulnerabilities. As the code writers have gotten much better in protecting those, they are now shifting to targeting users through social engineering schemes. And this is exactly what they do in like email. These crypto phishing attacks are social engineering schemes where attackers share fraudulent links to steal victims' sensitive information, such as the private keys to crypto wallets. And I guess if our team could put the link to the article, there it is. So a majority of this 2.1 billion was caused by wallet compromises, key mismanagement, and operational issues. As they say, 80% of all problems on the internet are from the humans that are using the internet. The largest of these is in 2025, stemmed from the $1.4 billion Bybit exchange hack in February 21st, when a North Korean Lazarus group staged the largest exploit in crypto history. So, beware. They're targeting your mind, not the code. The second article I'd like to highlight is what crypto security researchers actually found on the Google Play Store. There were 20 crypto phishing apps there on the Play Store. So these were targeting cryptocurrency wallet users. So the apps used similar package names and descriptions as legitimate crypto wallet apps, but were published under different developer accounts, which are often compromised. These apps names were similar to legitimate crypto wallet apps. A list of some of the fraudulent apps is provided in the article. And these apps have been progressively discovered over recent weeks, which indicates that this is an ongoing and active campaign. So beware of where you get your wallet. This is really scary stuff, but you have to be vigilant as we leverage these conveniences.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I know so many people. I deal with a lot of people who are crypto investigators, right? They're forensic analysts and stuff like that. And the schemes, the pig butchering, right? We have a YouTube video on our channel which is all about specifically how they target people and what you can do to go after them. The sad news is there are so many of these things that the police can't even address them all, right? If it's under $100,000, the police, the law enforcement, they just don't have the resources. So there are organizations. A friend of mine, Chris Krishong, out of Southern California, I'm trying to remember the name of his solution. They've got a foundation where crypto whales essentially are contributing money to this foundation to help people that have smaller dollar losses to be able to afford for these crypto investigators. If the crypto investigators can identify who the perpetrator is, then they can send it to law enforcement, and law enforcement can go after them. But law enforcement doesn't have the resources to do the research, right? So, if you're dealing with any of these things, reach out to us. We'll see if we can get you some resources to be able to go after that. But I would like to take a minute, but before we introduce our speakers, to really thank our sponsor. We'll pull up a video here about our sponsor here in a second. But I want to just tell you, from my perspective, Cess Network is a great friend of the GBA. They're members of the Government Blockchain Association. They're one of the first layer 1 protocols to ever go through a blockchain maturity model assessment, where we brought in a team of people and we looked behind every rock behind every tree and under every rock. We looked at their documentation, we interviewed their people, and really kind of tore it apart. And what we found was a sterling solution. So one of the reasons why they're involved in this episode today is because of their incredible capability when it comes to both artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, being able to localize nodes, and their whole infrastructure is amazing. So let's go ahead and watch just a quick little promo video about our sponsor today. And by all means, please check them out. They're absolutely worthwhile doing it. So let's take a look at the video.
Ever wondered how Cess keeps your data safe? Let's take a quick tour. Cess uses amazing blockchain technology and a layered architecture to keep your data secure and private. Its Cess protocol suite has 3 magical layers. The blockchain service layer, ensuring network security, security, and decentralization, plus performance. The distributed storage resource layer, making data storage smarter. The distributed content delivery layer, delivering data at lightning speed. Of course, you can also take a look at this image. Meanwhile, the Cess AI Agent Hub brings in the coolest AI technology, enabling ultra-secure, privacy-preserving collaborative model training across the network. When you store data on Cess, it gets broken down into tiny encrypted pieces distributed across the network. Only after you authenticate can you retrieve and reassemble those pieces, keeping your data private and secure during the process. Cess also has powerful technologies like proof of data reduplication, PODR squared, multi-format data rights confirmation, MDRC, and proxy re-encryption technology, PRE, giving your data top-notch protection. Join us and unlock the new potential of data with Cess. Follow us to explore endless possibilities.
That's it. They're a great, they're a great organization. And one of our speakers comes to us today from Cess, as a matter of fact. So let me go ahead and introduce our speakers. Anvesh Gunuganti, he's a public information security expert at Optum. He's got over 17 years of cybersecurity experience. Anvesh is a recognized expert in identity and access management, zero trust frameworks, and AI-based threat detection. And his work has really fortified critical infrastructure in healthcare and finance. Frank Hughes is a CISSP and a PMP cybersecurity subject matter expert at Cess. He's a veteran cybersecurity professional with extensive experience in threat intelligence, cybersecurity operations, and national defense. Frank brings a really unique perspective from his time at a number of government agencies, including DOC, DHS, and DOE, Department of Energy, along with military intelligence. Of course, a lot of people believe that military intelligence is an oxymoron, but in Frank's case, that's definitely not the case. So let's bring them in, and let's see. Kevin, do you want to kind of set the table, and we'll turn it over to Frank and Dache.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hello, Anvesh and Frank. Thanks for joining us. Cybersecurity is always a interesting topic, but I think today, why don't you introduce yourself, and you're going to talk a bit about the front door and the back door model, I understand. So first, Anvesh.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for the brief introduction. So I'm Anvesh Gunuganti. I specialize in identity-centric cybersecurity with a strong focus on zero trust architecture, decentralized identity and access management. So my work involves helping organizations adapt modern security frameworks that reduce risk, improve transparency, and support scalable, secure digital services. So I'm coming to the topics that you want me to go into the topics, Kevin, like on the zero trust, or you want to?
Sure. Why don't you talk a bit about this, and then we'll go over to Frank.
Okay, sure. So yeah, coming to zero trust. For a long time, our security models were like a casual, I would say, with a mode. We spent a lot of our effort fortifying the perimeter. So once you are inside the castle walls, you are largely trusted. But here is the problem. So what happens when someone breaches this perimeter? So they can then move laterally, so often unimpeded to wherever they want to go. That's simply not good enough anymore. So that is where this zero trust comes into picture. So this is where the concept of never trust, always verify comes in, which is the cornerstone of zero trust. So it's fundamentally challenges our mindset. We no
Hmm.
longer implicitly trust anyone or anything. So whether they are inside or outside of our traditional network or boundaries, I would say. So yeah, every single access request, whether it's from an employee or a partner or a device, it is treated with suspicion until it can be explicitly verified with the zero trust models. So why this is so critical now? So while our workforces are distributed, we are heavily reliant on cloud applications, and frankly, the threats we face are far more sophisticated, right? So
Yeah.
zero trust assumes that breach will happen. It's not about if, but when. So instead of focusing solely on prevention, we design our systems to minimize the impact if the breach occurs. So the core principles we have to be focusing on are like the explicit verification, the least privilege, and you have to assume breach always, and you have to continuously monitor. So when it comes to least privilege, you get the absolute minimum access required to do your job. So I can give you some examples where we have faced, if you do not follow the least privilege pattern or the formula, there is a lot of lateral movement, and yeah, this is crucial in limiting the blast radius, especially if an account or a device is compromised. So assuming breach, yeah,
Anvesh,
we
if I can ask you just a quick question. A
yeah.
lot of people have heard the concept zero trust, right? Zero knowledge proof, things like that. But as you go through, and I really want to hear about these examples, but could you, maybe for the audience that doesn't really know what that is, could you explain what zero trust is or zero knowledge proof is and how that relates to how you should deal with your security architecture?
Sure. So for me, the essence of zero trust, it is not just about a product, or more. It's more about the fundamental shift in the mindset, I would say. So we are moving away from a perimeter-focused trust, but verify approach to a never trust and always verify model. So this means continuously authenticating and authorizing every user, device, and application before granting access to anything. So regardless of whether they are inside or outside of the traditional network boundaries. So it is crucial because it significantly reduces our attack surface. So yeah, the model that we built in, the zero trust model itself, it explains like the surface area that we can explicitly narrow down. So in an enterprise context, it means like never trust anything, and it has to be always verified.
Got it.
So
Yeah, it sounds like traditional cybersecurity, putting the locks on the front door. But Frank, I think you want to talk a bit about the back door. Is that true? How do we share data without compromising all of the protections that zero trust provides?
I think, Kevin, you said it pretty well at the beginning. The people out there that are trying to get the data really only have to be right once. In cybersecurity, we got to be right every time. So that, CES has kind of reimagined how data is stored,
Hmm.
managed, and accessed. It combines the blockchain security with distributed storage and smart AI orchestration to create a zero trust decentralized environment. So it's really a layer one blockchain network that has content decentralized delivery network. The video kind of showed a little bit of it,
Yeah.
but it's much thicker than that. The decentralized object storage, if you think about a AWS S3 bucket, it's kind of like that, but decentralized. It's scalable, location aware. So if you have an agency that needs to keep everything in a certain region of the US, you can do that. And it really, it has built into it trusted execution environment, which is our T miners. You think of that as, they are the ones that are the cryptographic, see these big words, ensure only authorized users access to sensitive data. That's critical for government systems that have PII or controlled unclassified information. So, the AI integration, which was in that video as well, is a federated AI training system. So you can train an AI through AI Link. And it's, smart contract driven. The training models come across nodes, but you don't share your raw data. Where that would be a good example is, say, DHS. You have all these components that have different pieces of data. They don't want that shared across everybody. So
Right.
the AI can be trained and still save the sovereignty of their data. So that's pretty important as AI becomes bigger and bigger. Data ownership is a big thing, but you can also share information if you need to. And then it goes through a proxy re-encryption. Again, something that's cryptographically done and enforced. Access controls are granular and supported by role-based access, multi-factor authentication. So it makes it pretty immutable. It's really for strong compliance with, say, like a FedRAMP, a NIST 853, or even, the newest one, CMMC. It also has some advanced use cases. One would be data lakes. That's a big one now. But again, agencies can aggregate structure and unstructured data together. Go back again to the federated ability to federated learning. It does that too. Think of like land records or something like that. Those could be tokenized, put on the blockchain, and then you really have data sovereignty. You got AI ethics and collaboration, scalable, secure storage, and tamper-proof auditability. Those are the big things.
Hey, Frank. Frank, if I could, I got a question for both of you, right? And it's again back to the front door, the back door. So from a front door perspective, Anvesh, what should people do, right? So we got a lot of folks listening to this live stream. There's going to be a lot of people watching the video afterwards. If they've got an organization or an enterprise, what are some of the specific things you'd recommend that they do to secure the front door, right? You were talking conceptually about, zero knowledge, zero trust, and not just locking the perimeter, but locking the interiors. What are some things that people could do? And then, Frank, to you, for organizations that have enterprises, you talked about a lot of different things. What could they do to harden their infrastructure so that so that they can do some of that collaboration? So generically, what are some things? So Anvesh, let's go to front door. What are some things that you recommend that they do? And then Frank, what do you think? What are some recommendations that you would suggest enterprises to do to sort of close everything inside the house? So Anvesh, to you.
Yeah, sure, Gerard. Yeah, so in organization, I'm thinking about fortifying those obvious everyday entry points that attackers try to leverage, the front door ones. So there are some weak spots that if it's left unaddressed or easiest target for criminals. So strengthening credential hygiene and authentication. So like a mandatory multi-factor authentication. This is a non-negotiable for everyone, I would say, like employees, contracts, or any privileged users. Whatever be it is, it has to be effectively slamming the front door shut on most credential-based attacks. So you should have some robust password policies. That is another point that I want to highlight. We need to enforce strong, unique passwords that aren't easily guessable. This means moving beyond simple to complex password rules, encouraging long passphrases and kind of things, and also passwordless authentication where feasible, like leveraging biometrics or FIDO2 keys to remove the passwords as a single point of failure entirely. And you should also focus on regular credential audits, like organizations should regularly scan for exposed credentials on the dark web dark web and force password resets for any compromised accounts. So apart from that, you have to look into the vulnerability management and patching activities like proactive vulnerability scannings and expedited like patch management and configuration hardening. These are few things that I think that those are important, Gerald, in these cases.
Are there any particular resources that you would recommend to people if they needed to do that? Are there any standards, any associations, any resources where people could learn about that?
Yeah, so when it comes to resources, the recommendation like foundational or authoritative, like you have NIST guidelines, like NIST publications where you have this zero trust architecture and CISS zero trust maturity model, or there are few other things like these resources like DoD zero trust strategy, or some organizations like we have like GBA is doing that, given the blockchain maturity model, these kind of things, and the Cloud Security Alliance, they also have extensively focused on these areas. So those are the few things that I can.
That's great. Frank, so over to you. I know one of the things that Cess does is they allow different government agencies to share information without essentially opening the barn doors to everything. And I know that you do a lot of Cess does a lot of stuff with AI, right? Allowing people to share training. And I don't know if I got this right. To share training data and not models, or share training models and not data. But what are some recommendations you would make to CIOs, CTOs, security people that are watching this call on some things that they could do to be able to share but not open the barn doors to everybody?
Yeah, again, I go back to something Kevin mentioned, and it really is a fact of not waiting. First of all, I've been in with the federal government for a lot of years and walked them into cloud. Part of the problem, and I can give an example, 23andMe, the sovereignty of that data that was collected by 23andMe is available to whoever the highest bidder is. We got to watch that, especially with this information. The oil of America, as Kevin said, the data is what's driving things. The decentralization of data really makes it extremely near impossible for the hackers to get to it, because you're not just taking data and putting it everywhere, but you're actually shredding that data, you're encrypting it, you're putting it in different areas, and then when it's time to bring it back, we do it quick. So it's not you're sitting there waiting for a Netflix video to load, right? It's instantaneous. It's milliseconds. So those type of things are what's coming. That's the reimagination of how data is used, and that's why I had to join Cess, was because I was so excited in the abilities of what they could do with data storage in a decentralized mode. From a cybersecurity stance, my life's all about protecting that data. And I think agencies need to understand with AI going crazy right at the moment, they've got to watch the sovereignty of that data. They got to make sure that they own it and it's not shared out where it doesn't need to be.
I read an article yesterday, maybe the day before, about a Social Security Administration supervisor who was taking data about people who had died, and he personal information, and sharing it with mothers with children, getting them to submit fake death benefit applications for their kids, right? And basically stealing millions and millions of dollars from the Social Security Administration trust fund or that account or whatever. And this was an inside job, right? And so going to, but what you guys have said about, you can't just protect the perimeters, you've got to protect all the stuff on the inside. That leads me to a question about transparency, right? And traceability. What do you guys think in terms of how blockchain can be used to, and I know I'm throwing this at you, not giving you a chance to prepare for it, so you guys are going to have to do this off the cuff. I have a habit of throwing people under the bus, so the longer you get to know me, get used to it. But can blockchain play a place in not only protecting the walls, but being able to prevent and even identify fraud, waste, and abuse within an enterprise? So, Anvesh, I'll go to you, and then Frank.
Sure. Yeah. When I talk about transparency and traceability using blockchain, I often explain it by focusing on the core characteristics of the technology itself. Specifically, it's distributed, immutable, and cryptographically secured ledger. For me, this is where the real power lies for the organization, especially in complex environments like supply chains and government process that we have discussed right now. Transparency, in a case like it's a shared single source of truth. In traditional systems, like every participant in the process, say a manufacturer or a logistics company, might maintain their own separate databases. This creates information silos and inconsistencies. While blockchain, all authorized participants share a single distributed ledger. So this means everyone sees the same identical information at the same time. So this view drastically increases the transparency, eliminating the information asymmetry, and fostering a collaborative ecosystem is what I feel. And the real-time visibility and auditability is one, like every transaction, every data entry, every change or a record is timestamped and immutably linked, so to the previous one in a chain. So this creates an unaltered audit trail. So for transparency purpose, this means that anyone with a permission can go back and review the entire history of a product. So yeah, I feel like it is more transparent, and for traceability, you have these records, and you have this end-to-end tracking.
Awesome. Frank, what do you think?
Well, I mean, part of the scare for cryptocurrency and blockchain in the early days was, it's used in illegal ways. Yes, it was. But it's very traceable. It's tamper-proof auditability built right in. The ability to go back. You look at some of these big hacks that they talk about, and they're able to track those people right down. It's not as big a deal as it used to be. It's a lot more traceable, auditable, being able to see where it's going, what's going on. I've done investigations in the past where we've tracked Bitcoin back to people. I mean, it's something that every transaction is recorded. That's what the blockchain is. It's a record of everything that's going on, and where those transfer to, and that type of thing. Now, when you get to the other side of that, sometimes it's a little harder to find who owns that wallet or something like that. But usually the movement of that particular cryptocurrency is right there in the blockchain. It tells you where it went, tells you what account it went into, if it was liquidated for fiat, where it went. I mean, you've got all of that. So to be able to track it, it's very minute steps that you can follow.
Okay. Well, one of the things that is becoming a big issue is the source of data. You may be able to track data, but how do you verify the source? And this is really important in things like I referenced earlier, these apps in the App Store. Not knowing or having any information on the source of these applications can be a problem. And there's actually a question that came up in the comments from Michael Noel, who said addressing interagency communications. So the source of the communications that these agencies may rely on to make decisions. Can you make any comment on that, Frank, and then maybe Anvesh?
Again, it's those minute steps I was talking about. The traceability of the origin of the data would be in that blockchain, showing where it came from, and then you can't change it. You can't go in there and change that. That would not be available. So it's the source that's in the block that says where it came from. Now, if it's an unreliable source, then you could flag it. Somebody comes up with a picture that isn't real. It's come from an AI source. You can flag that.
Yep. When I think about addressing this interagency communications, especially concerning the origin of data, like the source of data, we have to immediately focus on the critical need of verifiable data lineage and authenticity. So establishing a digital fingerprint for data origin and leveraging immutable ledgers for data journals. These are some things that I can think, like secure API-driven exchanges with strong identity. Those kind of things.
If I could ask, I know one of the projects that we're working on in the GBA Identity Management Working Group is securing identities from AI and deepfake attacks. How does AI change the security landscape, and in what ways can blockchain essentially help us either use AI or integrate with AI in order to help prevent against AI and deepfake attacks? Either one of you can pick that up.
Well, I'd say one of the things that Cess Network uses is what they call an AI-generated content that ensures the traceability and the rights confirmation. So we're confirming the rights of that data as it's coming into the system. So, it's essential for government communications and, say, their digital media to ensure the traceability and the rights. Again, goes back to the sovereignty of that data.
That's fascinating. Could you explain that a little more? I know that there's one of the GBA members, Scott Sternetta, who actually invented the first blockchain in 1991. He's got a company called Suremark, and we've got another GBA member, Confidios, led by Steve Henley, who's the GBA PMM program director. Really talk about the sovereignty of data, right? Frank, can you unpack that for us a little bit? What do you mean by that? Because I think this is a really, really important issue and a major issue as we move into the future.
Okay, so basically, I think at the 30,000 foot level, the AI is working with the data to ensure that it is original and that is owned by the person. So, it's basically taking that and tokenizing that piece of data. Then that token is within the infrastructure of the Cess Network. Then once the ownership is confirmed, then that person who owns that, whether it be a specific person or an agency, would have the rights to share that where they needed to. Again, it's a retokenization of that data to say I can share that with Anvesh so that he can see it. Nobody else can see it until I make that change.
Got it. Kevin, you're an expert on tokenization, right? Well, at least you play one on TV. If somebody wants to understand what tokenization is and for them to tokenize data, can you maybe explain what that means and how do you tokenize data? I mean, I understand what a Bitcoin is, but how do you tokenize data?
Yeah, absolutely. So tokenization is really shared ownerships of an entity or an item. I always like to use your house or your home because everyone lives somewhere. And if you took the value of your home and or the actual real estate of your home, you could split it up into multiple pieces. And then you could probably share each of those pieces by selling it on the open market. That is actually a way of tokenizing your home because each piece of your home could now be represented by a coin or a token or virtual representation of ownership. So it's much easier to share or to sell a piece of your home than it is to sell your whole home because it's much cheaper, much faster, it's much more liquid. That's called real world asset tokenization. You can actually tokenize virtual items like maybe a piece of intellectual capital. You could actually tokenize data and have shared ownership of, let's say, the special herbs and spices in Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kevin, I don't know why you had to mention that. I'm definitely trying to lose weight, and I'm trying to stay away from fast food. And now
tokenization is a real powerful item when you can put blockchain to track all of these pieces: who owns it, who transfers it, how much it costs, and where it resides.
So this is really an important thing. And Frank, this is probably what you're talking about. Anvesh, I'm going to come back to you to actually answer the question about AI and deepfakes in identity. But Frank, is this what you're talking about, where we take some information, we break it up into pieces, we attach those pieces to different tokens, stored on a blockchain, and the only way to get access to that information is to be able to bring those tokens back? Is that what you're talking about, or did I miss something?
Yours is a little bit higher than what actually happens. The tokenization or the file, the way a file is handled. A file comes in and it is shredded into multiple pieces. And when those pieces are then encrypted, and those are sent to servers. As I said, you can determine, location based. So you can do just inside the US, you can do it all around the world, right? Those pieces go to multiple servers. So each piece would go to, say, 7 or 8 servers. And that's in case one of the servers is down or the connection isn't working or anything else. In the decentralized models, we got to have lots of copies of it. And it's not the whole file. It's just a little piece that's encrypted. Then when you click on that file on your system, let's say it's on your R drive or something, you click on it to bring it back, it just reassembles it. It brings it back together based on the encryption method. Then that file is instantly available to you. But in the meantime,
a bad actor, then how do you keep a bad actor from being able to do that?
So the encryption methods that are used, let's say that a hacker was able to compromise the server setting in my basement, right? They were able to compromise that. All they would get is little encrypted pieces of information that they couldn't read.
Got it.
They would have to, and you talked about quantum earlier, Kevin, they would have to break the encryption on each one of those little pieces to get a small snippet of the original file.
Got it.
So to successfully do it, they would have to do it across 12 servers across the day. They would have to know where those servers were. They won't even be able to get that information. So it makes it impossible to pull all that information back together without the proper tools.
Anvesh, is that what you were talking about when you said you've got to not only lock the front door, but you got to make sure that within the boundaries that they can get to all that stuff? And how do you respond to the AI question?
So coming to the AI, we have been seeing a lot of hyper-realistic deepfake and voice cloning and sophisticated social engineering things. So automated fraud and all these things we are seeing. So when it comes to the blockchain's role in securing these identities, this is where blockchain comes in a fundamental layer of defense, particularly through the concept of decentralized identity and verifiable credentials, I would say, like user control and self-sovereignty, like with DIDs. Like I as an individual truly own and control my own digital identity instead of my data being scattered across multiple centralized databases, like my identity, my attributes, everything on my own device and not on a central server. And also going with a tamper-proof records that we have been discussing. Immutability ensures, with the immutability, we can ensure that once a credential is issued and recorded on the ledger, it cannot be altered or falsified, these kind of things. And we can do a selective disclosure and privacy. So decentralized verification where we present our credentials and the verifier checks for the cryptographic signatures against the issuer's public key, and these kind of mechanisms that we can use, and that is what I think can bypass this or overcome in this AI world.
And there's a lot of great solutions and sources for decentralized identity. If you go to the GBAglobal.org website, we have this thing called the Emerging Web 3 directory, Emerging Web 3 Solutions directory, and there's a link there for identity, right? So if you clicked on that link, we'll put a link to the Emerging Tech directory in the chat here in a little bit. I'll be talking about it a little bit more in detail a little later. But there is one solution called Earth ID, right? Which is if you're looking for an identity management solution, a decentralized identity management solution, that's one. There are many, but that's one that I know of off the top of my head. So decentralized identity really helps do some of the things we need to in terms of cybersecurity. Listen, I want to cover a couple other subjects, but before I do, Anvesh and Mark, you want to maybe give us some sort of finalized summary thoughts about the front door and the back door, and then also let people know how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in. You can always go to the GBAglobal.org website. There's a contact form. You can always fill that out, and we'll get that to Anvesh and Frank. Frank,
you should also probably mention that we're going to have a roundtable right after this event where they can ask their own questions of Anvesh and Frank.
Kevin, God bless you. That's all I can say. Yes, we will be having a roundtable. I should have mentioned that earlier. I apologize. If you look in the chat, you will see the link to that roundtable. So as soon as this is over, we're going to pop in there. We'll hang around there for about half an hour. Feel free to share thoughts, comments about what you're doing, ask questions. It's just a great forum for open dialogue. But so, Anvesh, do you have any sort of final thoughts? And then I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that GBA is doing, and then we'll go into the roundtable. So, Anvesh, any sort of final thoughts and how they can reach you?
Yeah. So from my perspective, this distinction helps us, like front door versus backdoor cybersecurity. It helps us understand two primary ways the attackers try to infiltrate an organization. Like front door attacks are about exploiting the obvious knowns or legitimate entry points, but doing so without authorization. So think of these things like a pick a lock, like a trick someone, or is opening a door or exploiting a faulty hinge on a gate. That's meant to be there. So yeah, like common examples we see, like the phishing attacks, or a weak or a stolen passwords, or unpatched vulnerabilities. So these are the few things that we can think about the front door. And when it comes to the backdoor things, these are unintended, like hidden or less visible, I would say, like a malware installed in the backdoors, or some kind of a supply chain compromises, these kind of things. So yeah, for me, understanding this distinction is absolutely crucial, because it dictates our defense strategy, like how defensive we have to be.
Excellent. Frank?
So I think, some of the stuff that is coming up in tech is about decentralization. Your identity management, as you said, maybe a tokenized identity that is external. That helps with the front door and the back door. As long as we're doing that zero trust and checking it, I've seen mistakes in configurations that really didn't check very much. It's kind of like, yeah, go ahead. Those type of things, we're going to have human error. We want to minimize that as much as possible. But I think from a government standpoint, they got to think of what it would take for an agency to adopt zero trust, blockchain-based storage, and applications. For somebody that wants to get a deeper dive, because I tried to keep this at a higher level rather than digging down into the dirt. If you want to know more, there is our white paper at Cess.network. It's under the tab Build. Take some time to read it. You can reach out to me. I think I'm on WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord. I'm out there. LinkedIn, whatever. Reach out to me. I'll be glad to talk with you about it. What issues you're seeing, what problems you know about. We're here for solutions, and we appreciate it. GBA bringing us in to talk about it. So
that's awesome. I'm going to share for a few minutes a little bit about some of the projects that the GBA is working on, and then Kevin, if you want to share a little bit about what NDF is doing. Honestly, it's a great opportunity for people to connect, to join NDF. But let me just tell you quickly, the Government Blockchain Association, gbaglobal.org. We are a membership organization. We've been around since about 2017, and we have government members in about 500 offices around the world. We have about 50 working groups. So there's tons of opportunities to get involved with, to connect with people and do meaningful work. One of our flagship projects is called the Blockchain Maturity Model. And if you go to the gbaglobal.org website, go to resources, underneath resources, there's a drop down and you'll see BMM. And what the BMM is, it does two things. It's a guide, it's a roadmap for people to build trusted blockchain solutions. And it talks about the security requirements that you need for that. And for people who are acquiring, for buyers, for government acquisition officers, it essentially is an evaluation framework in order to be able to evaluate blockchain solutions. So by all means, please check that out. One of the things that's connected to that is our emerging tech directory. So if, again, you go to gbaglobal.org, underneath resources, you'll see a link, and it says, I think, Web3 solutions. And in there, you can see all kinds of Web3 solutions to help you accomplish a lot of the things that we talked about today, right? The digital identity, Cess Network is in there with links to their website and more information about them. But it's an incredible resource that you should check out. Also, the gbaglobal.org YouTube channel is a phenomenal resource. All those videos are free. We are working on a report that will be published by the GBA and the United Nations Internet Governance Forum Dynamic Coalition on Blockchain Assurance and Standardization. Really long name, I didn't pick it. But the name of that report, and it really is very timely in light of a lot of stuff that's happening in the U.S. Presidential administration, is a report that we're putting out called Preventing Government Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Through Blockchain. And this report is going to identify all kinds of different use cases about how blockchain is being used in health and human services, and in land title registry, and in just so many things. So if you'd like to be a part of that, by all means, join the GBA and join our banking and financial it is the budget accounting and transparency working group. And then the last thing I want to share about GBA before I turn it over to Frank to hear about NDF is our next major conference is in 2025. It will be the last week in October at the United States Capitol, called The Future of Money, Governance, and the Law. So if you're interested in any of these topics, you want to stay informed, go to the gbaglobal.org website. In the slider, you'll see a link to the newsletter. Connect to that, and that way you can stay abreast of this and many of the other projects that the GBA is working on. I want to say Frank, not Frank. Kevin. You want to share? Yeah, I know who you are. I've had too many wings and whiskeys with you in the evening to forget who you are.
No, I understand. And we had mentioned a bit about tokenization. In fact, the National DigiFoundry is looking to leverage tokenization to improve the economic environment in many regions around the world. And we're focusing on sports and entertainment venues because that enables inclusive investment and allows individuals and small businesses to own a share of valuable regional assets, things like football stadiums or football pitches, depending on where you're living. Traditionally, the financing of these venues has relied on large institutional investors, municipal bonds, or corporate sponsorships. Tokenization, however, introduces a decentralized investment model where local stakeholders can fractionally own venues, contributing directly to their development and success. Beyond investment, though, tokenization can also stimulate local commerce and job creation. Through revenue sharing models, this can be integrated into smart contracts, automatically distributing earnings from things like ticket sales and sponsorships and merchandise to local vendors, artists, and service providers. Additionally, the token holders can receive exclusive perks and incentives. So we're working on models, smart contracts, and opportunities where regions, cities, towns, countries even can leverage tokenization to improve the life of their constituents. So you can learn more about the National DigiFoundry at digifoundry.org. You can reach me on LinkedIn or X.
Awesome. And can I ask the producers to go ahead and put a link to the open forum that we're going to have afterwards? It's going to be a Zoom link. So if you guys don't mind dropping that in. So at the close of this, we are going to have an open forum there. Before we do that, though, I do want to remind and thank everybody that this edition of Emerging GovTech Livestream is sponsored by Cess Network, a globally recognized layer 1 blockchain that has earned the blockchain maturity model rating, placing it as one of the most trusted protocols in the space. Cess stands out as the first layer 1 designed to provide AI optimized data infrastructure, primarily built for Web3 and data sharing. Just awesome. So please feel free to check them out. They're at cess.network. And I can't tell you enough highly about it. Also, I just want to share with you that they have partnered with the GBA, and they're going to be helping us opening up GBA Asia They have a vast network. I think your Twitter follower, X following has 800,000 people. So if you haven't heard them before, it's not because they're small. It's because there's just a lot of big players in the space. But when we did the assessment of them, we were very impressed with what they had behind the curtains. Also, they were so willing to open up and share their interest in transparency, decentralization, and really wanting to get better. Right, was just absolutely visible to our team, and it's really true of their whole community. So by all means, please check them out. All right, Kevin. Let me ask you real quick. What were some of your key takeaways in the conversation we had today?
Well, I think about zero trust, and in a lot of ways, it's sort of a ambivalent thing. But our guests made it real. How you can share information and data, and actually protect it and ensure that only those that are authorized to get that information in data. So I think it was a very important aspect of Web3 and our entire life when it comes to technology.
Yeah, I totally agree. My takeaway from this thing is, the threats are getting bigger and bigger. They're faster, moving faster and faster, and but there are strategies and mindsets, right? I think we heard the concept of mindset is not just protecting the perimeter, but really protecting everything on the inside. And I know that the whole concept about tokenizing the data, sharding it, breaking it up into different places, we have to reimagine how we do cybersecurity. And that's one of the things I think that as we look at the blockchain maturity model, we need to start looking at how do we bring those concepts, those strategies into objectively verifiable criteria,
yes,
right, that professionals can know about, am I doing the things I need to do to be able to protect this data? I think it's that's what I really got out of it.
And I also think this is a growing job opportunity. So if you're out there trying to find a way through life, cybersecurity, learn and be in demand because this is part of our lives now. Protecting your information, protecting your data.
We just have a couple of minutes, like two. I just want to highlight two things. One, education resource. So the GBA makes free blockchain training available to its members through our partnership with the Blockchain Academy. So if you're interested in getting education, by all means, join the GBA. Right, once you do that, get into the training. And then secondly, in terms of resources and infrastructure, right, we have a strategic partnership with the National DigiFoundry. So Kevin, real quick as the last thing before we go, can you share with folks the resources you make available if people do want to maybe stand up a sandbox, or if they want to do that? Go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. National DigiFoundry were created as a incubator and open sandbox for innovation around digital assets. The big companies, they get stuck in their ways and they don't know how to reinvent processes. It's the individual, it's the entrepreneur that typically has these new ideas, but don't have the resources to put them in practice. So we provide that environment, that technology, that sandbox where you can create your vision and then highlight it to others that can help you bring your vision to the world. So feel free, come and join us and show your vision to the world at digifoundry.org, and we will help you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Our topic next month is going to be artificial intelligence and basically emerging how governments can use it. And primarily, we're going to be looking at the intersection between blockchain and artificial intelligence. How do we use blockchain to secure the trust and transparency of AI systems? So it's going to be a fascinating topic. Stay tuned. All right. So with that, thank you everybody. It was a pleasure having this talk with you guys. And if you're interested, we'll look forward to seeing you in the Zoom room here shortly.
Thanks, everyone.